Okay, let's talk about show not tell. Because I think it's so interesting when you go from like one medium to another, um, in the process of your own exploration. For those of you that do, for those of you that don't, this will not apply. Uh, but if you go from like one medium to another, right? Like let's say theater to film, it's a little more closely related, right? Because there's a visual component to it. Although theater is more, there's more space for the gift of the gab, let's just say that, so you can put more into the mouths of like, you know, like of your actors, of your characters, whereas with film not so much, because it is a visual aspect. But I do think that there's a visual component to theater, but that's my personal take, whatever. um, but when you go from like say film theater to like writing a novel, right, or writing a book, or even a podcast, right, which is a different form of storytelling. I think it's really interesting because you are in fact telling a story, and but there's a component of writing a book or telling a story through a non-visual component, an auditory component, where you have to tell the audience the story, right? But it's all in how you frame it, right? Like how you set up the visuals so that they can have those visuals in the audience's mind, so the audience can have the visuals in their mind, excuse me. Whereas in a film, you don't really have to think so much about that, right? Like it is very much, it isn't that you don't think about it at all, but the camera is the visual. You are going to see it, you know? And so like, yes, you'll write like what, you know, what the living room looks like, not through the characters, but like through like, you know, the what's it called? The not action, through the like things. I can't think of the word. You know, sort of like, okay, a person enters like a, you know, messy room, for instance. But I think that there's, when you like shift from that form of storytelling to a much more non-visual, it is so much harder. It is so much more challenging, and I recognize like a lot of the like challenges that I've had with the script that I like it's mostly written, it just needs to be edited a lot more, is that visual component. And I didn't I'm always starting stuff, but sometimes in the starting of that thing, like you'll hit upon like the issue that you're facing in this other project. And that's why I like starting other projects as I'm doing other projects. So I'm like doing simultaneous projects all at the same time, because I think sometimes it informs the project itself that I'm having issues with or that I feel stuck with, right? Going back to like our previous conversation of like being stuck, of like what blocks us as artists. And so you are, you know, innately like kind of facing the same issue, but because you're looking at it from a different lens or through a different medium, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what's happening with the other script, right? But it is such a hard thing to really be used to one or a pair of mediums that are very similar, because to me like theater and film are like almost like sisterly, right? Or brotherly. It's like this relationship where it's like, oh, I can go from here to here, like I can like, because in its nature it's a very similar, you know, there's like a visual component. Yes, you can be more talky in theater than you can in film. Although, you know, if you look at other filmmakers, they're just as talky. Taking a look at, I'm not even gonna consider the man that wrote Manhattan. Anyway, but that's a very talky film for me, right? And some people like more action based film. Other people like, you know, like more romantic stuff. Other people like things that really are about like the power of the wills, which is like when you can like add really interesting dynamics of like how people talk, right? Like thinking back to Mamet, right? Mamet does that a lot. Mamet like has a very specific way. Who's that screenwriter as well? I always forget his name. But their characters speak in a very specific cadence. With that said, I still consider it a very similar medium. And for me, transitioning into this other medium has been difficult because all of a sudden you have to consider something that, while you still did consider it, it wasn't like the main object, because you weren't like painting necessarily a picture of something. You have a story to tell. The fact that you have a camera is the visual medium, and so that helps you out a lot, right? Like it's whatever the camera is going to pick up, that's the visual medium. And you can add to it in a film script, right, or in a TV script. Like I'm sure like what's her name, with Bridgerton, like, you know, like there's a very specific kind of like look to Bridgerton, so you add that into the script. But ultimately, again, it's a film that's picking all of this up, so you don't have to like tell it, you don't have to show anything. Like all you have to do is like, okay, this is the time period, this is what it looks like, boom, moving on to the conversation. Whereas with like, say, a manuscript or a podcast version, you have to consider it, and you can't tell people so much as show people. And like it's been such a challenge, but I think I'm getting my head around it. So if you have troubles with it, like I totally get it, because same girl, same. It's such an interesting thing that you like, things that you don't have never really considered. All of a sudden, because like you're in a different medium now, you have to like really focus and pay attention to it. And as I've gone back to like writing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. But then you have to also consider pacing, because like there's a difference between me telling you something, me showing you something, and then that messes up with like the pacing, right? I can tell you that I'm scared, but like when I show you, there's a lot more to it than like just, oh, I'm scared, right? Like which, like, again, that's awful writing. I'm just giving an example. And so you're like you know, because there's more verbiage and there's more like, you know, there's just more words, like then it throws off the cadence, and it throws off the tempo of you know. And kind of like what worries me, especially like with adapting classical works, is sometimes that it can get too wordy. And when it's like an auditory medium, you're like, are people even like gonna be engaged? Like, am I adding just too much? So, you know, it's like a balance. It's really interesting. So, you know, that's where I'm at with my stuff. It's where I'm at. I guess we'll see. Anyway, I just wanted to have a chat about showing and not telling, and the different mediums, and how like not all of a sudden you have to like consider things you had never considered before, and you feel like a beginner, which, you know, like you should always, but it also kind of feels like it sucks, because you're like, because you are a beginner, right? And through this medium. It's so annoying. Just being honest. Anyway, talk to you soon. Bye.